Hey, what's going on, Badger fans? Big recruiting weekend coming up this weekend. We're going to talk about who's going to be on campus, who do you need to pay attention to, who are we excited about. Let's go. You're going to want to stick around for this one.
You are Locked On Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to Locked On Badgers. I'm your host, Ryan Herrings, as always. Truly do appreciate everybody tuning in, helping to build this community. Can't say how much I thank every one of you. But we got a big show today, so let's get into it. Today's show is brought to you by our good friends over at BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. Okay, so we are getting into a very interesting time in the very early Luke Fickell era. So this is the first big recruiting weekend. This is the first opportunity for this new staff to come in and really reverse some of the damage, right? There was no getting around it. Having your head coach fired in week 3, having your head coach let go in week 3, going through this whole thing with Jim Leonard, having an interim coach, struggling through much of the year. There was going to be damage on the recruiting side. There was no avoiding that. It happened. And now Luke Fickell is able to come in and kind of reverse some of that, kind of put some of the pieces together after the recruiting tornado came through. So let's talk about who's coming to Madison this week. A quick rundown on each player, who we're excited about. Let's start with Malik Elzy. And Malik Elzy is a guy we talked about with John Garcia Jr., 6'3" receiver, 200 pounds, big kid. John Garcia Jr., the Sports Illustrated recruiting insider, mentioned that this is like a receiver one. This is the type of guy that you need to get if you're Wisconsin. Doesn't have to be Elzy, but this type of guy is the type of guy you have to get if you're going to push your offense into the next level. The type of receiver that you're going to need for Phil Longo's offense. This type of player, 6'3", 200 pounds. He looks the part, fast, long, physical, great catch radius. This is going to be a battle. He's very interested in Illinois. He was a Cincinnati commit, so there's certainly a connection there. But he actually decommitted before the Cincinnati coaches left. So this is not an immediate, he's definitely going to follow that staff, right? There's offers from, I think, Tennessee, Iowa. Other schools have been interested. I know Michigan, I think, has sniffed around a little bit here. So Malik Elzy, 6'3", receiver, definitely somebody that's going to be very, very high on Wisconsin's wish list here. Let's go Braedyn Moore. This is another player that we talked about with John Garcia Jr., 6'1", 200 pounds. He's coming on campus this week, borderline 4-star safety. A player that plays everywhere, though, right? Special teams, safety, a receiver, great ball skills, really physically developed already. Kind of like if you think of Austin Brown, safety that Badgers got in last cycle, highly rated safety, that type of physical player who can come in and probably play in special teams right away. Physical presence. Again, maybe more of an in-the-box type of extra safety who can cover tight ends, make tackles at the line of scrimmage, but he's also athletic. This is a big priority for the staff. He's coming in this weekend. Jonas Decluna, I apologize if I mispronounced that. Jonas Decluna, 6 foot, 175-pound corner coming out of Naples, Florida. So one thing you're going to notice, and one of the trademarks for Luke Fickell and that coaching staff, is they developed some real defensive back talent there at Cincinnati. And they were big. They had big corners. They really believed in that philosophy. And a lot of the corners, safeties, defensive back prospects you see them getting in on now are 6 foot, 6'1". We just talked about Braedyn Moore, 6'1". Decluna is 6 foot. So 6 foot, 175 corner out of Florida, decommitted from Cincinnati. He has an offer from Arkansas, over 30 offers, Big Ten, SEC schools. Definitely looks the part. When you watch Decluna on film, you're talking about a long, lean safety, runs well, hits pretty good, great ball skills. Again, just looks the part. He looks like the type of cornerbacks Cincinnati has had on the field the last several years. Bigger, longer, faster, pretty good prospect coming to campus. Definitely somebody that they're in on. Christian Allegro. This is a really fun prospect to me. So for a couple reasons, Christian Allegro, 6'3", 220-pound linebacker coming out of Avon, Connecticut. So interesting for a couple reasons right off the bat. Avon, Connecticut. That name sounds familiar. Wisconsin has a walk-on quarterback from Avon, Connecticut. Marshall Howe joined the roster last year. So interesting that they're going back there. This is a really physical player for a high schooler. Like, he is well built. He looks the part. Kind of gives me some TJ Edwards vibes, right? When you see him play, he is pretty adept in coverage already for a high school player. He steps back in coverage, makes some plays, has great hands for a high school player. Avon uses him out of the backfield. They'll throw passes to him. They kind of use him as an H-back a little bit out of the backfield. And then in their defense, they drop him back. There's several clips of him getting into passing lanes, picking off a pass, bringing it back down the field. Just an athletic thumper in the middle that can play the pass. Again, kind of reminds me a little bit of TJ Edwards, can go sideline to sideline, really looks the part of a Wisconsin linebacker. Now, this is one, he's kind of blown up recently. So he's coming to campus, but there's offers from Nebraska. He picked up an Ole Miss offer, who we're actually in several battles with prospects that also have Ole Miss offers. Jamel Howard is in that boat. But Allegro, he looks the part. I think he's an inside linebacker at Wisconsin. He's not an outside guy, but someone who can play in coverage, can come downhill, hits people, plays on both sides of the ball, physical, like him a lot. Tucker Ashcraft is a tight end coming 6'5", 235 pounds out of Seattle, Washington. A guy who has offers from Michigan State. He has an offer from, it's Michigan State, Colorado, a few others. Just a big physical dude, inline tight end, but can get down the field. He's 6'3", 6'5", 235 already in high school. So he's coming on campus in a year. You're talking about a guy who's probably going to be 6'5", 240, Tucker Ashcraft. So definitely somebody who is going to be a physical presence at the line of scrimmage, but he runs pretty well. He's not a stiff. He's someone that can get out in the past line of scrimmage, get past linebackers, and really attack kind of that middle of the field, right? That area before the safeties, past the linebackers, and he's going to be physical and tough to bring down after the catch. I really like this entire group, right? Ashcraft. And by the way, what does it tell you too? What are they looking for? There's several tight ends we're in on, right? We talked about CJ Jacobson in a show recently, Tucker Ashcraft. We're going to talk about another tight end coming up. They're definitely looking at that tight end room, that tight end group, and saying, yeah, we need to bolster that area. So that's interesting to see. Several defensive backs coming in, right? Braedyn Moore, and Jonas DeLuca. So you're seeing cornerbacks, tight ends, receivers interest with Malik Elzy, all spots where Wisconsin really does need to keep upgrading those positions. What are we feeling about these players? Elzy seems like it's going to be a battle. We're not really sure. Braedyn Moore apparently had a really good connection with Cincinnati's safeties coach who is coming over. He feels like a guy who Wisconsin probably has a really good shot at. And then a couple of the other ones, I'm not sure, but all these prospects are really interesting to me. I think they all look the part on film, and they all have that physical profile that you're looking for. And really the physical profile that Luke Fickell's staff looks for, that they're able to develop into next level players. So you're starting to see the evolution of his recruiting vision, his board, and what he wants to do at Wisconsin. Get big physical kids in, and then we're going to develop them. Because a lot of these guys are athletes, right? Braedyn Moore plays a bunch of different positions. Christian Allegro plays on both sides of the ball. A tight end we're going to talk about coming up plays on both sides of the ball. So get athletes in, develop them. It seems like that's a big part of what Luke Fickell wants to do. Coming up, we're going to talk about some of the committed prospects coming on campus. How safe is everyone else in this class? Are we kind of done with decommitments, and now is it about rebuilding some of the players that maybe you lost to decommitments, getting those guys back in the fold? We're going to talk about that next, coming up on Locked On Badgers. But first, today's show is brought to you by our good friends over at BetOnline. BetOnline remains your number one source for all of your sports betting needs and information. The best place for live in-game betting, futures betting, the latest odds, lines, and trends for every professional sport, amateur leagues, and it has everything: football, basketball, baseball, golf, esports, UFC, racing, anything you want, you can find on BetOnline. And again, if you love sports podcasts, you can find those there, plus live casino games, blackjack, roulette. It's really what we've gone to on the Locked On Network. It's what I use, do it responsibly, but it is so much fun to have some futures bets with BetOnline and just track it as it goes. Test your sports knowledge. Is your intuition correct on who's going to win the Super Bowl? Who's going to win the NBA Finals? That's what I do on BetOnline. Grab your mobile device, head to the website today, learn more about the trends and actions. BetOnline, where the game starts. For your second listen today, go check out Locked On Sports Today. All the biggest sports news, stories, scores in one spot like only the Locked On Network can provide. Wherever you get your podcasts, available on YouTube and the Odyssey app. All right, let's keep going here. Let's keep talking about some of the other prospects coming in. And I want to talk about the committed prospects. So this is not just a big weekend. Listen, we talked about it, right? Luke Fickell has several jobs coming in, several jobs. You have to reach out to uncommitted prospects. You have to flip committed prospects, but you also have to secure the base of your 2023 class, which is the guys that are committed. Right? Those are the players that have been there. They're committed to the previous staff. And there's some really talented kids in there. You got to secure those too. And that's as big of a job as bringing in new kids. So coming into campus this weekend is a giant group of what's left of the 2023 class. Again, that class has been gutted, and it wasn't that deep to begin with, right? There was definitely quality players in there. There still are, but it wasn't a class full of volume. Yeah. So some of that's been gone, but coming into campus this week is Jace Arnold, Tyler Jancy, Cole LaCrue, Jordan Mayer, Justin Taylor, and Nate White. And by the way, I got a lot of these from Badger Extra there, so you can go check out their work. They do a great job of keeping everybody up to date on what's going on in recruiting. And you can also follow who's coming in on official visits on ON3. There's a couple free references out there that you can really see what's going on, and don't have to really get behind a paywall for any of that. So definitely want to source and credit those places where I got some of this information from. So coming in, Jace Arnold, the cornerback, really fast, undersized, right? Again, not necessarily in that mold of the Cincinnati cornerback. He's smaller, but he is fast. He's explosive, close to a high 3-star kid. I still love Arnold. He's probably more of a slot corner, but he's coming in. He's already tweeted that he's solid, so I don't think we need to worry about him. Tyler Jancy, the first recruit commit in this class that just really underrated, in my opinion, inside linebacker out of Illinois, hits everything, much like we talked about Christian Allegro, the corner or the linebacker coming from Connecticut. Jancy's kind of like that too, kind of physically developed already, a little underrated, under recruited, I would think, and a guy who just looks like he's going to be a 3-year contributor, right? You look at him and you think he's going to play for 3 years in the Big Ten, Tyler Jancy, and I don't know why all these big schools didn't offer him. So he's coming in. Cole LaCrue, we've talked about the quarterback from Colorado, state champion Cole LaCrue. We've had him on the show a couple times. Big fan of his game. He's coming in. I can tell you he's excited about this new staff. Going to be excited to get him on, meet the new offensive coordinator, talk to Luke Fickell in person. So he's coming in on an official. And it's always good when a quarterback comes, right? Quarterbacks act as gravity for a class, holding it together, attracting new pieces. They're kind of that central sun in the solar system. And you're going to have uncommitted prospects here. You're going to have a receiver here, Malik Elzy. I'll tell you what, I would pair him up with Cole LaCrue, and Cole LaCrue's got moxie. So getting Cole in this group with some of these uncommitted prospects, I think is a really smart move, and I'm excited to see that. Jordan Mayer's coming in. He's an edge player out of Pennsylvania. Really good pass rusher, kind of compact, but definitely, listen, the Badgers need to reload that outside edge position, right? So you're going to be losing Nick Herbig very likely to the NFL. No official decision that I've seen yet, but I think that's where people think he's trending. So you need to start restocking that position. Jordan Mayer can do that. JT Taylor is a really interesting athlete out of Illinois, can play a bunch of different positions. I think that versatility really plays well in what Fickell wants to do. So he's coming back on campus. And then Nate White, the electric running back, in-state running back, coming in to visit as well. He's already tweeted that he's solid. He's already been visited. So I think for the most part, the core of what's left in the 2023 committed class is solid. You still have James Durand, who I think has been reported as solid, and AJ Tisdale, another cornerback, who I haven't heard a lot about him, so I'm not really sure where he is. But I think Durand is solid. That's the interior offensive lineman out of Arizona. So that's what you have coming to campus, right? You have this chunk of uncommitted prospects, really highlighted by Elzy, Braedyn Moore, athletic players, Christian Allegro, Tucker Ashcraft, and then you have the bulk of your 2023 class that's going to be on campus as well. And I think this is going to really give Luke Fickell, this coaching staff, this recruiting staff, an opportunity to solidify that group, probably add 2 or 3 names to it, and really get the ball rolling now. I think you're going to start to see the floodgates open. I don't think would shock anybody if a couple recruits committed to Wisconsin this weekend and all of the current recruits kind of recommitted or reaffirmed. So it's a huge weekend. We need to start seeing some of this take root and take fruition. I think we're going to. Now let's talk about 2 other prospects that we talked about a lot in this show were Badger commits, right? Jamel Howard and Tretch Kekahuna. We talked about Jamel Howard just a couple days ago with John Garcia Jr. about how he's very open to Wisconsin. He's going to take another official visit. He's going to come and meet Luke Fickell and see what this staff is about. Meet with Mike Tressel, I'm sure, the very likely new defensive coordinator. He's such a big commit, or such a big target for Wisconsin, right? Because we've talked about it. We just don't have a guy on the roster like him. And you can go to the portal, right? And they probably are, by the way. They're probably going to need to find an interior defensive lineman in the portal to help fill Keanu Benton's shoes, who's leaving for the NFL. And Keanu Benton was such a stud. You're not going to find one guy to completely fill his shoes, but they're probably going to go to the portal to get some help there. But you also got to get somebody in the pipeline to develop. So you're not going to the portal every year. Jamel Howard is that guy. He's that guy this cycle. 320-pounder, big physical dude, and he can move, right? He's a 320-pounder whose feet aren't stuck in cement. And that's just so valuable for a defense like what Luke Fickell and Tressel ran in Cincinnati, so valuable to what Wisconsin was running in Jim Leonhard. Both defenses play with an odd front. Both defenses want a big dude in the middle to control really that center guard gap. And Howard can be that guy. So they've reoffered him. He's coming on an official visit. They're all in on him, but it's going to be a major battle, right? Howard has offers from now Michigan, Ole Miss, LSU jumped in the mix. It's going to be a major battle, but keep in mind, he fell in love with Madison once already. All right. He was already sold on Madison. So now it's just a matter of, can Luke Fickell sell him on Luke Fickell? And that's what we're waiting to see. That's going to be a big commit to watch. And then Treach Kahuna, favorite receiver of the show. He's the guy Justin and I wax poetically about. He is not even undersized. He's 5'11", 6 foot, but he is explosive, and he would bring an element to this receivers group that, quite frankly, isn't there. Kind of that shifty start and stop in space, speed in space. Also offers special teams versatility. He's just an electric playmaker. And if you look at the current receiver group at Wisconsin, a lot of them are more of the. Listen, Skylar Bell's not slow. Keontez Lewis isn't slow. Chimere Zeke is not slow, but they're kind of a similar build, 6 foot to 6'3", more of long speed, more of the boundary receiver. Treach can play in the slot more. He can give you more of that catch a 7-yard pass and just make two people miss in space and take it 30 yards, right? He gives you a little bit more of that, I think, and it gives you something unique on this offense. And we're about to go to an offense that's going to play 3-4 receivers a lot more. They're going to spread it out a lot more. You need more weapons. This is a guy who blew up, right? Got offers from, Oregon, a lot of other places after he committed to Wisconsin. And now it kind of feels like maybe Oregon filled up. Maybe that offer isn't there anymore. That was his dream school. And he tweeted that this current staff, Luke Fickell, re-offered him. He fell in love again, much like Jamel Howard. He already fell in love with Madison once. You don't need to sell him on the city or the school or the conference, or that distance is a problem. You just need to resell him on Luke Fickell, on the coaching staff. And quite frankly, this system and this scheme is going to be a lot more friendly to Treach than the previous one. Okay, that's not a surprise to anybody. That's not shocking anybody by saying that. So it's a big one. Those are two that we're really watching. Jamel Howard, Treach Kahuna. I think Fickell has solidified most of the rest of the 2023 class. If he can bring those two back in and then supplement it with 5 or 6 additional guys, a couple from Cincinnati, a couple flips. Yeah, I think we're cooking for 2023, and it's going to end up being a solid class. Not a great class, but a solid class. Coming up next, I want to talk about, there's a few more recruiting news nuggets I want to talk about, including 2 offers that I think are really interesting, and a commitment. The first commitment to, I think the first commitment to Fickell's regime. We're going to talk about that too, and why it's kind of exciting. That's coming up next on Locked On Badgers. All right, everybody, thank you so much for tuning into Locked On Badgers. Again, I appreciate y'all so much. If you like the show, hit the subscribe button. We are trying to become, and we're working towards it, the most subscribed Big Ten show on the Locked On Network. And I think it's because we mostly don't beg for subscriptions, right? We mostly just put out what I think is good content, authentic content, consistent content, and we're building the community in a pretty organic way. So if you like that, I really appreciate it. If you can take a second, hit the subscribe button, and let's keep building this community into what I think is going to become one of the best Badger communities on the web. All right. So with that being said, let's keep going. Let's talk about two offers that went out. Both to players that I think are really interesting, both to former Cincinnati commits. Let's start with Amari Snowden. And we talked about already the prototype a little bit with Luke Fickell, right? The prototype of big, physical, long defensive back, somebody that you can develop, somebody that has a lot of upside, somebody that you don't question the physical tools with, right? You're not curious about, is this dude going to have the physical tools to compete at the Power 5 level? That's what you're concerned about is, can you develop him? Is he a guy that the coaching staff can work with and get to the next level? And I think with Luke Fickell, we've already seen that he is that guy. Luke Fickell can already develop players. So I love that we're focusing more on rangy cornerbacks, longer players. It seems like the Badgers for a long time, and to be fair, recruiting quarterbacks at Wisconsin's hard, but it feels like we've sacrificed some physical tools to get more technically sound players, guys that are more 5'10", really, really solid tacklers, good in zone coverage, but lacks some of the length and speed. It seems like Fickell's going to shift that, and we're attacking more physicality, more length, more athleticism, and we're trusting this coaching staff, which has a track record of development, to develop them. So let's talk Amari Snowden, 6'3", 190-pound kid out of Roseville, Michigan, was a Cincinnati commit, really rangy. Again, he plays cornerback, safety, receiver, primarily safety, and this is one to track. So he wants to play baseball as well. Let's just get that out in front of this. So obviously Wisconsin doesn't have a baseball team. If he wants to do both, doggone it, we got to get a baseball team. Anyway, just a long, rangy center field type athlete. And if you look at this Wisconsin defense, I've said for a couple of years, I really like the group of safeties we have, like Hunter Wohler. I love Kamoy Latu. Austin Brown was a big get, but they all kind of feel like a similar type of player, a little bit more of in the box safeties. And I think Hunter Wohler can play center field. Kamoy Latu's physical and fast, but we haven't really had like a Tanner McAvoy, really tall, long, rangy safety, right? That can play deep center field, can cover, really help cover up those deep vertical routes that Ohio State likes to run, that Penn State used to hurt us with, and I think Amari Snowden is that type of potential player. Again, 6'3", 190 pounds. He glides around the field. Like, he just great ball skills, gets good reads on it. He really glides around the field. He uses that length and that speed to cover a lot of ground, and it doesn't even look like he's moving that fast, but he's really moving. This is a big-time athlete and would be a tremendous get for Wisconsin. If you were to pair him with some of the other talent at the safety spot, if you had a Snowden there with a Wohler, Latu, and Brown, that's pretty phenomenal stuff right there in terms of upside. Now, we still have to see how they play out, but I'd be here for that. Another interesting offer that went out to me is Kamari Anderson. He's a tight end, 6'4", 230 pounds out of Detroit, Michigan. So Kamari Anderson, another Cincinnati decommit. So again, we're talking about some of these players are going to start trickling over from Cincinnati. Both Snowden and Kamari, Cincinnati decommits. Malik Elzy was a Cincinnati decommit. Braedyn Moore, Cincinnati decommit. Kamari Anderson plays tight end, defensive end. We talked earlier about the other tight end coming in on an official visit, right? Tucker Ashcraft, big physical guy. Think of Tucker Ashcraft as like that Troy Fumagalli type. Well, this player, Kamari Anderson, is more like that Jalen Franklin. I know Jalen Franklin didn't necessarily work out at Wisconsin, but he's more that type of player. Long, lean, athletic. I actually really like his defensive line film. Like, he's kind of explosive there. He's able to get by defenders, get by blockers, uses his wingspan to disrupt things. So I'm interested in Kamari on either side. Again, we're sensing a theme here, right? It fits the bill of Luke Fickell finding athletes, targeting athletes that can play a couple different spots, and they're going to develop them. They're going to trust their player development to work with these tremendous physical skills and get them to the place they need to go. So Kamari Anderson, either way, whether it's a tight end, if you watch film of him after the catch, he is an explosive tight end. Really the type of tight end we haven't had since probably like a Lance Kendricks. He's that type of athlete, probably not quite as fast, but probably a little bit bigger. But that's going to be a tough battle. Kentucky's in on him, Washington, Auburn, Ole Miss, others. I think Alabama is working with Kamari Anderson a little bit as well. But the offer went out. He is a Cincy decommit, so obviously there's a connection with that staff. That's going to be an interesting one. And as noted earlier, right, it's another tight end. So that's a position that they're trying to target and build up. And lastly, I want to talk about Peyton Lange. I mentioned first commit really in this era, right, for Luke Fickell. 6'9", 360-pound offensive tackle, 6'9", 360-pound offensive tackle out of Minneapolis, Minnesota. He's a walk-on, right? And we've talked a lot about walk-ons. Is that walk-on program going away? Is it staying here? Are they going to continue exploring that route? And again, I think they will, because Luke Fickell's not an idiot. Like, he's an intelligent person, and he knows that he can get talent that way. So I'm interested in it. I'm going to dive more into the film with Peyton Lange. But again, it's hard to teach 6'9", 360 pounds. So he's joined the program as a preferred walk-on. And I'm excited about it. More depth, and you can't go wrong with a walk-on. So that's kind of the recruiting overview here. I threw a lot of names out at you. I'll put it on Twitter too. But essentially, you have the bulk of the 2023 committed class coming to Madison. And then you have a group of 5 or 6 uncommitted prospects coming in, highlighted by what I would say is Malik Elzy, Braedyn Moore, and Christian Allegro. So tight ends, receivers, defensive backs. And we're going to see the first real big efforts of this rebuilt Badger staff, this recruiting staff in motion I think we're going to get some commits out of this weekend, and I think the ball is going to get rolling. So I'm really excited for it. Appreciate everybody tuning into the show. Really, really do. Thank you for helping build this community. I can't say that enough. On Wisconsin, we're going to keep talking to y'all, and we're going to be with you throughout the weekend as news breaks. So let's keep it here on Wisconsin, and let's go.